Maya had worked 12 hours straight in the hospital. The long night shift had drained every drop of energy from her body. She walked slowly out of the building, her shoulders heavy, her eyes tired, but her heart still soft. She had spent the night helping patients, checking pulses, giving medicine, holding trembling hands. She loved being a nurse, but the truth was, she was exhausted. Life for her had always been about giving, not receiving. She lived in a small apartment, worked extra shifts to support her younger sister in college, and rarely thought about herself. That morning, however, she had promised herself a little break. "I just need a few days away," she whispered as she carried her small travel bag. She had booked a ticket on a cheap flight to Miami, planning to rest by the sea, read a book, and maybe sleep without alarms for once. At the airport, everything seemed like a blur. The crowds moved fast, announcements echoed through the speakers, and her tired mind struggled to focus. She checked her ticket twice, but in her sleepy state, she wandered toward the wrong gate. A smiling attendant scanned her boarding pass, nodded, and guided her forward. Maya didn't notice the difference. She simply followed, clutching her bag, dreaming of rest. When she stepped into the plane, she paused. The interior was not what she expected. Instead of rows of crowded seats, there were only a few wide leather chairs. The lights were soft, and the air smelled faintly of roses. "This is different," she thought, blinking in confusion. Before she could turn back, the door closed behind her with a heavy click. A tall man in a tailored suit looked up from his seat. His sharp blue eyes widened slightly when he saw her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm but curious. "I think you may be lost." Maya froze. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is this not flight 482? The man's lips curved into a small smile. "This is not a regular flight. This is my private jet." Her face turned red with embarrassment. She gripped her bag tightly, ready to beg for a way out. But the engines began to hum beneath her feet, and she realized the plane was already preparing for takeoff. The man stood, walking toward her. He was tall, with dark hair touched by silver, and a presence that carried quiet authority. Yet his gaze wasn't cold. It was curious, almost amused. "My name is Daniel," he said, offering his hand. "And you are?" Maya swallowed hard, shaking his hand lightly. "Maya. I'm so sorry. I boarded the wrong plane. I was supposed to go to Miami. Please, if you can stop." Daniel chuckled softly, shaking his head. "We can't exactly stop now. We're already cleared for takeoff. But don't worry. You're safe." Maya sank into one of the wide chairs, her heart racing. She had never sat in such luxury before. The leather was soft, the space around her almost unreal compared to the crowded flights she usually took. Daniel watched her with interest. She looked nothing like the women who usually stepped onto his jet. She wore simple clothes, no expensive jewelry, and her tired eyes told stories of long nights and hard work. She looked out of place and yet, somehow, completely real. "Where were you going?" he asked as the plane lifted into the sky. "Miami," Maya whispered. "Just a little rest. I'm a nurse. I work long hours. I think I needed to breathe for once." Daniel studied her silently for a moment. Then, with a hint of warmth in his tone, he said, "Maybe the universe thought you needed a different kind of break." Maya frowned. "What do you mean?" "We're going to the Caribbean," Daniel said. "A small island. Quiet beaches, blue water, peace. Maybe it won't be such a mistake after all." Maya blinked at him in shock. The Caribbean? She had only seen pictures in magazines, heard co-workers talk about dream vacations she could never afford. And now she was accidentally flying there on a billionaire's private jet. Her heart thudded in her chest. She didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or demand they turn back. But deep inside, a small part of her whispered that maybe, just maybe, this strange accident was a gift. As the jet broke through the clouds, Maya leaned against the window, staring at the endless blue sky. She still felt nervous, but something about the way Daniel carried himself, the calm, the kindness behind his sharp eyes, made her feel less afraid. For the first time in years, her journey was not planned, not controlled, not forced by duty or responsibility. It was unknown, uncertain, and strangely exciting. And Maya had no idea that this mistake was about to change her life forever. The jet glided smoothly through the sky, its engines a soft hum beneath the leather seats. Maya sat stiffly in her chair, clutching her small bag as if it were a lifeline. She kept glancing at the man across from her. Daniel was calm, leaning back in his seat, reading something on a tablet. Everything about him spoke of wealth: his tailored suit, the quiet confidence in his posture, even the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than her car. Maya felt small in comparison, almost invisible. She wanted to melt into the seat and disappear. But Daniel looked up and caught her staring. He gave a faint smile. "You don't have to sit so stiff. You'll get a sore back. These seats recline." Maya blinked, unsure whether to laugh or apologize. "I'm not used to this," she admitted softly. "I usually fly in, well, not this." Daniel chuckled, setting the tablet aside. "Most people don't. Don't worry, you'll get used to it quickly." His voice carried no arrogance, only gentle amusement. Maya slowly leaned back, testing the chair. To her surprise, it was more comfortable than any bed she had slept in after a long shift. She let out a small sigh, almost forgetting her embarrassment. "Why the Caribbean?" she asked after a moment, trying to distract herself from her nerves. Daniel looked out the window for a long second before answering. "Peace," he said simply. "The world I live in is full of noise, meetings, deals, people who always want something. Out there, on the islands, it's quiet. Nobody pretends. It's the only place I can breathe." Maya studied him curiously. He was a man who seemed to have everything, yet his words carried a heavy weight. She thought of the hospital, the crowded wards, the never-ending calls for help. She understood the need to breathe, though her world and his were far apart. A flight attendant entered quietly, offering drinks. Maya refused politely, but Daniel ordered water for both of them. "You're a nurse?" he asked after the attendant left. Maya nodded. "Yes. I work mostly nights. Long hours, sometimes hard cases. But, it's worth it. When someone holds your hand and whispers thank you, you forget how tired you are." Daniel tilted his head, intrigued. "And what about you? Who thanks you when you're the one exhausted?" Maya gave a faint smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "No one needs to. That's not why I do it." For a moment, Daniel said nothing. He only looked at her with quiet respect, as if seeing something rare. The jet landed hours later on a small island airstrip. As soon as the doors opened, warm air filled the cabin, carrying the scent of salt and flowers. Maya stepped out slowly, her eyes wide. The sea stretched endlessly, shimmering turquoise under the sun. Palm trees swayed gently in the breeze. "This feels like a dream," she whispered. Daniel's lips curved into a smile. "Then let's make it one worth remembering." Two sleek cars waited for them, but Daniel motioned for Maya to join him in the simpler open-top Jeep. "You'll see the island better this way," he explained. As they drove, Maya's hair danced in the wind, and her tiredness seemed to melt away. She saw children laughing by the roadside, fishermen pulling in nets, bright-colored houses painted in cheerful shades. Life here felt slower, warmer, freer. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Daniel asked. "Yes," Maya breathed. It's nothing like the city. Everything here feels alive. Daniel nodded, his eyes softening as he watched her take it all in. He had brought many people to this island before, friends, business partners, even women who tried to impress him. But none of them had looked at the place with such pure wonder. They arrived at a villa by the shore. It was large, with white walls, wide balconies, and a path leading down to the sand. Maya hesitated as she stepped inside, feeling once again out of place among polished marble floors and glass walls opening to the sea. "This is too much," she murmured. Daniel shook his head gently. "It's just a house. The sea is the real treasure." He led her outside to the beach. The sun was setting, painting the horizon in gold and rose. Waves lapped at the shore, soft and steady. Maya slipped off her shoes and let her toes sink into the sand. For the first time in years, she smiled without effort. They walked along the water's edge in silence. Daniel glanced at her from time to time, noticing how she closed her eyes and breathed deeply, as if her soul was drinking in the peace she had been missing. "You were right," she said at last. "Maybe this mistake wasn't so bad." Daniel's heart stirred at her words. He didn't know why, but her presence felt different, lighter, genuine. She wasn't dazzled by wealth, nor did she try to impress him. She was simply herself, a tired nurse who wanted nothing more than a chance to breathe. And Daniel, for the first time in a long while, felt like he wasn't alone. Maya looked at the horizon, unaware of the shift already beginning in both their lives. This journey had started as a mistake, but destiny had a way of hiding truth inside accidents. The waves whispered softly, carrying a promise neither of them could yet understand. The morning sun rose over the island, spreading gold across the sea. Waves touched the shore with a gentle rhythm, and palm leaves swayed with the breeze. Maya stood on the balcony of the villa, sipping a cup of tea that one of the staff had quietly placed for her. She breathed deeply, letting the salty air wash away some of her tiredness. She had never seen such beauty before. Back home, mornings meant rushing coffee in one hand, bus schedules and hospital calls filling her head. But here, time seemed slower, like the world wanted her to rest. Still, she felt out of place. The villa was too grand, the servants too polite, the silence too deep. She wondered how long she could stay without feeling like a stranger in someone else's life. Daniel walked out onto the balcony. He had changed from his suit into simple clothes, linen shirt, loose trousers. For the first time, he looked less like a billionaire and more like a man. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Maya replied softly, lowering her eyes. "You slept well?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said, though in truth, sleep had come slowly. She had lain awake, thinking about how strange her situation was. Daniel leaned against the railing, his gaze fixed on the sea. "This place has a way of quieting the noise in my head. I hope it helps you too." Maya studied him carefully. There was something heavy in his tone, something hidden behind his calm face. For all his wealth and power, she saw a shadow in his eyes. "You must be used to this," she said, waving a hand at the villa, the beach, the luxury. Daniel smiled faintly. "I'm used to it, yes. But being used to something doesn't mean you feel at home in it." Maya tilted her head. "You don't feel at home here." He shook his head slowly. "I don't feel at home anywhere. Not really. This life, it's full of noise. People want deals, money, opportunities. Even when they smile, I can't tell if it's real." Maya's chest tightened. She thought about her hospital patients, poor, sick, frightened, but their gratitude had always been real. Their hands clutching hers, their whispers of thanks, their tears of relief. Even when she was exhausted, those moments were true. "Must be lonely," she said quietly. Daniel's eyes met hers. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he nodded once. It is. They went down to the beach later. Daniel walked beside her, hands in his pockets, while Maya carried her sandals, toes sinking into the cool sand. Children played in the distance, their laughter carried on the breeze. Fishermen sang as they pulled in their nets. Life here was simple, unpolished, but full of warmth. Maya stopped to watch the fishermen. They seem happy, she said. Daniel followed her gaze. They don't have much, but they don't seem to need much either. Maya smiled faintly. Sometimes happiness is not about how much you have. It's about how much peace you feel inside. Daniel looked at her then, not with amusement but with something deeper. He realized she was not impressed by his wealth, not dazzled by the world he owned. She spoke of things money couldn't buy: peace, kindness, truth. They walked further, and Maya told him stories from her work. She spoke of patients who had little but still offered her smiles, of children who held her hand when they were afraid, of families who cried when they said thank you. Her voice softened as she shared, her eyes shining with quiet passion. Daniel listened carefully. No one had ever spoken to him like this. Most people filled the air with stories of business, parties, or luxury. But Maya's words were simple, yet full of weight. She was showing him a different world, one of sacrifice, compassion, and small joys. And you? Maya asked after a pause. What makes you happy, Daniel? He hesitated. It was a simple question, yet it struck him hard. What made him happy? He had wealth, power, respect, but happiness? He realized he couldn't remember the last time he had felt it. Finally, he answered, for me, happiness is when someone looks at me and sees me. Not the billionaire. Not the man with power. Just me. Maya's heart softened. She looked at him with quiet honesty. Maybe you don't need to search for more. Maybe you just need someone real. Daniel's chest tightened at her words. For the first time in years, he felt like someone was looking past the surface. And that someone was Maya, the tired nurse who had boarded his jet by mistake. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange, Maya walked ahead, letting the water brush against her ankles. Daniel stayed a step behind, watching her. He wondered how this woman, simple and unadorned, could make the world feel less empty. That night, at dinner, they sat by the balcony overlooking the sea. The staff served them fine food, but Maya's eyes stayed on the waves instead of the plates. You know, she said softly, I don't belong in this world of yours. Daniel leaned forward, his gaze steady. Maybe that's why I need you in it. Maya's breath caught. She didn't know what to say. She was just a nurse, a woman used to small paychecks and long shifts. Yet here was a man with everything, telling her he needed her presence. She looked away, afraid of what her heart was starting to feel. The sea whispered below, as if carrying secrets only the two of them could hear. The next few days passed like a dream. Maya walked along quiet beaches, watched the sun rise from the balcony, and shared long conversations with Daniel. She found herself laughing more than she had in years. For once, she wasn't only a nurse, she was simply Maya. Daniel seemed lighter too. His serious face softened when he was with her. He spoke less of business and more of memories, stories of his childhood, of his father teaching him how to sail, of his mother reading to him by the fire. For a man who carried such power, he seemed almost fragile when he spoke of the past. But dreams never last forever. One morning, Maya stepped outside the villa to find strangers on the beach. Cameras flashed in the sunlight, voices rose in excitement, and lenses pointed directly at her. Who is she? One reporter shouted. The mystery woman with Daniel, another called out. Maya froze, her heart pounding. She had seen celebrities in the news, their private lives displayed for all to see. But she had never imagined herself standing in those pictures. She covered her face and rushed back inside, her chest tight with fear. Daniel was already on the phone, his voice calm but firm. Security moved quickly to push the photographers back. But Maya didn't feel calm. She felt exposed, like her quiet world had been ripped open. "Daniel," she whispered, trembling, "what is happening?" He hung up and turned to her, his expression full of concern. "I'm sorry, Maya. The press follows me wherever I go. Somehow, they found us here." Her eyes filled with panic. "They think I'm someone important. But I'm not. I'm just a nurse. They'll laugh at me. They'll say I don't belong here." Daniel stepped closer, his tone steady. "You don't need to care what they say." But Maya shook her head, tears threatening. "That's easy for you to say. You live in this world, you're used to it. But me? I can't. I don't want to be in newspapers or on screens. I didn't ask for this." She turned away, hugging herself tightly. The peace she had felt these past days crumbled like sand in her hands. The dream was breaking. That evening, she sat alone on the balcony while Daniel spoke with his advisors inside. She heard fragments of their words: damage control, headlines, speculation. Each word cut deeper into her heart. She had walked into his life by mistake, and now her own life was being torn apart because of it. When Daniel joined her, she didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the dark horizon. "Maya," he said gently, "don't let them steal this from us." She shook her head. "This was never mine to keep. I don't belong in your world, Daniel. People like me, we fade into the background. We heal others, we give, but we don't stand in the spotlight. I don't want to." His chest tightened at her words. He wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she belonged with him more than anyone else had. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw fear, not peace. "Maya," he said again, softer this time. "Please don't go." She stood, her hands trembling. I think I should. Before this becomes something I can't escape." Daniel's heart ached as he watched her walk back into the villa, her shoulders heavy with sorrow. He had faced business rivals, lawsuits, betrayals. But this, watching Maya slip away, felt like the one battle he might lose. That night, sleep refused to come for either of them. Maya lay in her room, staring at the ceiling, hearing the distant crash of the waves. She thought of the patients she had left behind, the simple life she had always known. A life without riches, but a life without flashing cameras or false stories. She had wanted peace, and for a short time she had found it. But now it was gone. Daniel sat in his study, staring at the sea through the glass wall. His chest burned with frustration. He had built an empire, crossed oceans, faced storms, yet he couldn't protect the one person who mattered most. In the early hours of the morning, Maya packed her small bag. She wrote a note with shaking hands, leaving it on the desk in the living room. The words were simple: "Thank you for showing me kindness. But this is not my place. I wish you peace." She carried her bag quietly to the door, her heart breaking with every step. She looked once more at the villa, at the balcony where she had watched sunsets with him, at the beach where they had walked side by side. Then she walked away. When Daniel found the note at sunrise, his hands trembled. He read it once, twice, 3 times, as if the words might change. But they didn't. She was gone. For the first time in years, Daniel felt powerless. All his wealth, his power, his influence, none of it could bring Maya back. He stood at the window, staring at the waves that whispered endlessly, and for the first time, he truly understood loneliness. Maya returned to her small apartment with a heavy heart. The city felt colder now, the streets louder, and the crowds more chaotic than ever. She had walked away from luxury, from a world of calm beaches and soft sunsets, thinking she would find peace in her familiar routine. But peace did not come. At the hospital, patients greeted her with their usual smiles, and colleagues asked about her trip. She answered politely, but her mind was elsewhere. She walked through corridors with steady hands, checked vitals, and handed medicine, yet a hollow feeling settled in her chest. The laughter she had shared with Daniel, the quiet walks on the beach, the sense of being seen, none of it could be found here. During a break, Maya sat by the window in the staff lounge, staring at the city skyline. The sun reflected off tall buildings, yet she felt no warmth. The view that had once seemed endless now felt trapped and gray. "Are you okay, Maya?" asked her co-worker, a young nurse named Lila. Maya forced a small smile. "I'm fine. Just tired, I guess." Lila nodded but didn't press further. Maya appreciated that. No one needed to know about the world she had left behind. It was private, personal, and she wasn't ready to explain it. That night, after finishing her shift, she walked home slowly. The streets were quieter, and she could hear her own footsteps echoing. She thought about Daniel, his calm voice, the gentle smile, the way he had looked at her when she spoke of small joys. She had left him because she believed she didn't belong, yet every memory of him made her feel empty. "I shouldn't feel like this," she whispered to herself. "I chose this. I left for my own peace." But deep down, she knew it wasn't peace she had left behind, it was connection. She had felt understood, seen in a way that no one else had. And now that feeling was gone. Meanwhile, Daniel could not focus on anything. He sat in his office, the island's quiet replaced by the endless noise of business calls. But his mind was with Maya. He remembered how she had laughed at the small waves, how she had spoken of her patients with such love, how she had made him feel human again. He realized he could not let her go. He had never chased anything before, he always had the power to buy what he wanted, but this was different. Maya was not someone to buy or control. She was someone to earn, someone to understand, someone to respect. After days of thinking, Daniel made a decision. He would find her. Not to pull her back into his world by force, but to show her that what they shared could exist anywhere. He would meet her in her world, a place she understood, and prove that his care was real, not tied to luxury or fame. Daniel arrived at the hospital quietly one morning. Maya was finishing her rounds when she noticed him standing near the entrance, looking small among the crowds of patients and staff. Her heart skipped a beat. "Maya," he said softly, stepping forward. His eyes were steady, not demanding, not imposing. "I came to find you." Maya's hands trembled slightly. "Daniel, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," he said simply. "I needed to show you that what we had, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't just a few days on an island. I care about you. And I don't care where we are, beaches, city, hospital, you are the one I want with me." Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She had thought herself strong, able to walk away from the glamour and the temptation. But she hadn't anticipated feeling this hollow without him. I don't know if I belong in your world," she said quietly. Daniel shook his head gently. "You don't have to belong in my world. I can step into yours. I can see life the way you do. I don't want to change you, Maya. I just want to be with you." For a long moment, she said nothing. She watched the busy hospital corridors, the people rushing by, the life she had always known. Then she looked at Daniel, standing there with sincerity in every line of his face, and felt something shift inside. Her heart, so heavy with emptiness, began to feel full again. The connection they had shared on the island, the laughter, the quiet moments, it had not disappeared. It had only waited for her to see it again. Finally, she whispered, I don't know what to say." "Then say nothing," Daniel replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. Just let me stay by your side. That's enough. Maya nodded slowly, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in days. She realized that she didn't have to fit perfectly into his world. They could meet somewhere in between her simple life, his complicated one, and the small moments that truly mattered. The emptiness she had carried vanished slightly, replaced by hope. For the first time since boarding that private jet by mistake, Maya felt that maybe life had given her a second chance, not at luxury, not at adventure, but at love and understanding. And this time, she wasn't running away. The hospital was quieter than usual that evening. Most patients had left after their appointments, and the halls echoed softly with distant footsteps. Maya walked slowly toward the staff lounge, carrying a tray of supplies, her mind still heavy with thoughts of Daniel. She had spent the day helping patients, talking with colleagues, and maintaining her usual cheerful exterior. But inside, a storm of emotions churned. She wanted to believe she could keep her life simple and untouched, but the memory of Daniel standing at the hospital entrance lingered like a spark she couldn't ignore. As she reached the lounge, she found Daniel waiting. He wasn't in a suit this time, just simple clothes, a soft shirt and trousers, blending almost seamlessly with the staff moving around. Yet, despite his ordinary appearance, his presence filled the room. Maya, he said quietly, his voice steady. I need to talk to you. She set the tray down, her heart pounding. Daniel. I don't know if this is a good idea. He took a careful step closer. It has to be a good idea. You left because you thought you didn't belong in my world. I'm here to show you that it doesn't matter whose world it is. What matters is what we feel. Maya's throat tightened. She wanted to look away, to pretend this was just another visitor at the hospital. But she couldn't. She felt the same pull she had felt on the island, the calm honesty in his eyes, the unspoken connection that had started with a simple mistake on a jet. I'm afraid, she whispered. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to lose myself again. Daniel nodded slowly. I know. And I can't promise life will be easy. But I can promise that I will be honest with you. That I will never ask you to change who you are. I don't want to take your life from you, I want to share it. Maya's eyes filled with tears. She had spent so long giving to others, patience, family, work, that she had forgotten what it was like to receive something for herself. Someone who cared for her, who saw her value beyond her tiredness, her work, her small apartment. Daniel reached out, gently taking her hand in his. Maya, you don't need to step into my world. I can step into yours. We can meet somewhere in between. She stared at their hands, the warmth of his touch breaking through the walls she had built around herself. Her mind raced with fear and hope, past and present colliding. Daniel. I don't know if I'm ready, she said, voice trembling. I've never done anything like this before. I don't need you to be ready perfectly, he replied softly. I just need you to trust me. Trust that I care about you, not the rest of the world. For a long moment, Maya felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She could walk away and return to her ordinary life, safe and predictable. Or she could take a risk, open herself to someone who had already changed her life in ways she couldn't explain. Her eyes wandered to the window, where the city lights reflected off the glass, distant and bright. Then they returned to Daniel, to the honesty in his gaze, the patience in his stance. I think I want to try, she whispered finally. Daniel's face lit with relief, but he didn't rush. He squeezed her hand gently. That's all I need, Maya. That's enough. They spent the next hour talking quietly in the lounge, sharing hopes, fears, and small dreams. Maya spoke about her work, her sister, the little joys she found in everyday life. Daniel listened, nodding, asking questions, showing a genuine interest in every detail. You make me feel alive, he said quietly. When I'm with you, I remember why life matters. Not the deals, not the money, not the power. Just moments like this. Maya smiled softly, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in months. She realized that the fear she had carried, the emptiness that had followed her from the island back to the city, was fading. She wasn't stepping into someone else's life, she was sharing her own with someone who truly saw her. As the night grew deeper, the hospital quieted even more. They walked together to the exit, the cool air brushing against their faces. Daniel opened the door, and they stepped into the city streets. The lights were soft, the sounds muted, and the night seemed to hold its breath for them. Maya looked up at the sky, the stars twinkling faintly above the city. She felt a calm she hadn't felt in a long time, a mixture of hope, trust, and courage. Daniel turned to her, his hand brushing hers once more. Whatever happens, Maya, I promise I will be here. Not to control your life, not to take it over, just to be by your side. She nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. And I promise. I'll try. I'll trust you. For the first time in a long while, they both felt the fear lift slightly. The risk remained, of course the world was still uncertain, life was still complicated, but in that moment, they were together. The mistakes that had started it all, the wrong jet, the unexpected journey had led them here. And now, standing side by side, they were ready to face whatever came next, not apart, but together. The city hummed softly around them, but for Maya and Daniel, the world felt quiet, warm, and full of possibility. The weeks that followed felt different for Maya. She still worked long hours at the hospital, cared for patients, and lived her simple life. Yet now, the weight in her chest had lifted. The emptiness she had felt after leaving the island was gone, replaced by something warm: hope, trust, and a quiet happiness. Daniel visited often. He never came to overwhelm her world with wealth or influence. Instead, he learned the rhythms of her life, walked the hospital halls with her when she needed a friend, and simply listened when she talked about her patients, her sister, or her small joys. At first, Maya had been cautious. She still feared losing herself, feared the pull of his world that could be so different from hers. But Daniel never asked her to change. He stepped into her life gently, blending their worlds in small ways that made both of them feel complete. One weekend, Daniel suggested a small trip. Not to a luxury villa or a private jet, but to a quiet seaside town, where they could walk on the sand, watch the waves, and talk without interruptions. Maya hesitated at first, but then nodded. She realized she wanted to share moments like this, simple and real, with him. As they drove to the beach, Maya looked out the window, the wind playing with her hair, and felt a calm she had never known before. Daniel kept glancing at her, smiling softly when she laughed at something small: a bird flying near the shore, a wave curling at the sand. "You've changed my world," Daniel said quietly as they walked along the beach. "Not with wealth or power, but with you. Your kindness, your courage, your way of seeing life." Maya blushed, shaking her head. "I don't know if I've changed anything. I'm just me." "But that's enough," Daniel replied. "That's everything." They spent the day walking hand in hand, collecting small shells, and talking about dreams they had never dared to speak aloud. Daniel shared stories of his childhood adventures, his first experiences sailing with his father, and how lonely it had felt to have everything but no one who truly understood him. Maya shared stories too, about the hospital, her sister, and the little joys she found in giving care. They laughed, paused, and sometimes simply walked in silence, listening to the waves and feeling the sun on their faces. As the sun began to set, painting the horizon in shades of orange and pink, Daniel turned to Maya. "I know life is not always simple," he said. "There will be challenges, and maybe people will question our choices. But I want you to know something: I am committed to you. To us. To whatever life we build together. Maya felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. She realized she had never felt so seen, so valued, and so safe. I feel the same, she whispered. I want to try. With you. Not your world, not mine, but ours. Daniel smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Yours. Mine. Together. That's all that matters. From that day, their life began to blend naturally. Daniel learned to enjoy small things: visiting Maya's favorite cafe, walking the hospital corridors with her, even helping her cook simple meals in her apartment. Maya, in turn, began to understand the careful world Daniel navigated, seeing it not as pressure or distraction, but as a space he had created and now shared with her willingly. They celebrated small victories: finishing long hospital shifts, quiet sunsets on the balcony, simple dinners with laughter and stories. And in each moment, they found joy, knowing they had chosen each other freely, without force or expectation. One evening, Daniel surprised Maya with a small picnic on the rooftop of her apartment building. Candles flickered gently in the warm breeze, and the city lights sparkled below like 1,000 tiny stars. He handed her a small, wrapped gift. For you, he said. Maya opened it to find a delicate locket, inside of which was a tiny photo of the two of them on the island, the place where it all began. Her hands shook slightly as she held it close. It's perfect, she whispered. Daniel took her hand in his. It's just a reminder. No matter where we are, no matter what the world throws at us, this us will always be real. Maya looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. She realized then that happiness was not about wealth or simplicity, not about islands or cities. It was about connection, trust, and shared moments. And with Daniel by her side, she knew she had found all of that. As they watched the stars emerge in the night sky, Maya rested her head against his shoulder. The gentle breeze carried the sound of the city below, the hum of life continuing around them. Yet in that quiet moment, they felt a world of their own, safe, warm, and filled with hope. For Maya and Daniel, the mistake on a private jet had become a journey neither could have imagined. It had brought them together, shown them their fears, and revealed the strength of connection. And now, hand in hand, they were ready to step into the future not as separate worlds colliding, but as two hearts walking the same path. The city, the hospital, the ocean, and the skies all seemed to whisper softly around them. Life had given them a second chance, a new journey, and a love built not on wealth or accident, but on truth, trust, and the courage to embrace it. And for the first time in a long while, both felt completely, undeniably, at home.